doing it. You supposed to be happy you sitting there with Kid L. Why you mad?
Rolling,
Kid L podcast.
rocking and rolling. We got D Greene in the building with some tequila for us. What's happening? You guys know I quit drinking, but I just want to like a little bit. I want to smell it. I just want to remind myself what tequila smells like. I haven't drinking it so long.
100% pure agave.
Okay, and this is your tequila, man. You crafted this.
Yeah.
Talk about the tequila. Tell everybody why you got into creating tequila in the first place.
Well, I got into tequila because it's timeless. There's no ceiling, It got people like the Kennedys, wealthy through Prohibition, and gangsters like Al Capone, wealthy. So it was something that I want to do always, and I born it in the belly of the beast,
Yeah, man. I was talking to you earlier. You said that this is being marketed right now in LA, and now it's time to check out Detroit with the tequila.
Yeah, we really on a wide spectrum with it. It's something that's global, but domestically we've been doing some tastings on some yachts and doing some things in LA, doing some things here in Detroit. This is the origin of it all. So,
I think Casamigos had its run, right? I don't think I see people drinking Casamigos that much anymore. Obviously Patron still has its run going. Do you feel like this can be the next one up for tequila?
I know it's the greatest thing it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, I mean, we're not in competition with the other, big name tequilas. We more so, we in a creative space, so.
And is it the first black owned tequila?
Yes, and it's actually the first one ever, but
What do you mean?
So if you Google it, maybe something else will come up, but during the pandemic in 2020 is when it, we birthed the idea, and we had the limited license liability company that we birthed in 2020, but I was in prison then, so, a lot of things wasn't on the forefront, but.
Yeah, when we had first talked on the social media, we were talking about that, man. One thing that caught my eye is you talked about getting out of prison in a helicopter. There was a lot of things happening, man. The story sounded wild. It sounded like a movie. And you even have a documentary about this whole thing coming together, right? Let's start from day zero, man. Tell everybody where you're from.
I'm from Detroit, Michigan, from the east side of Detroit, the heartbeat of the east side, 6 Mile and Gratiot, Pelkey Street to be exact.
Yeah.
That's my origin.
What was it like growing up for you in Detroit?
It was great because I wouldn't take nothing back, because everything that I went through is what sculpted me to being who I am today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So early years, childhood years, growing up playing sports, you know what I mean, playing manhunt, BB Butcher on the block, you know what I mean, mixing it up. All of these things help sculpt and make me into the man that I am today. So
yeah,
I appreciate it.
When was the point where you started taking yourself towards the street life and starting to get yourself as like a self-made entrepreneur?
It really started early on. I would see certain things. My mother's husband went to the federal penitentiary when I was a kid. I used to go visit him. And when I was a child, I used to go to Costco's and buy sugar and buy Kool-Aid. And I would put it on my mother's scale, and I would weigh the Kool-Aid and weigh the sugar out into bags and take it to school and sell it. And all of the kids' hands would be red except for mine. And the teachers, all of the rest of the children in school was hyper except for me. So that's where my hustle hand came from. And we wanted some of the first black entrepreneurs on the east side. My family, they owned a hair salon there, and we had a store. So I used to work the register and pay the Frito-Lay man, and make sure I pay the Pepsi man and things of that nature,
What do you mean pay the Pepsi man and the Frito man?
So I would do stock and inventory as a child.
Yeah.
I would stand on crates because I was too tall. I would stand on crates behind the bulletproof glass. And if I needed anything, I would go in the intercom and let my family know or whatever, what I needed. And, I ran the store when I was a child.
Wow, man. This is, that's pretty crazy. How old were you when you were running the store?
Maybe 9 years old.
Jesus, man. So you're a young entrepreneur legally. You're doing things that are legal at the time, right?
Yeah.
So how does the entrepreneurship continue from there?
So everything really evolved very quickly. I started wanting things that was bigger than what my family can give me. And it just took on a life of its own. Got the name D Greene. I started gambling real good and just got off into the street life. And when I was 18, I got shot up. And when this happened, it kind of made me out a monster, And then later on in life, a couple years later, I went to the penitentiary for a gun.
So from going into like doing like legal business, obviously at school, you're just trying to hustle and, you're trying to work with, you're trying to do legal things in the streets. What made you cross over into the underground?
It was always there. It was always a natural propensity for violence and the street life and to make some quick money, in my area where I grew up. And I would see some of the people I don't know if you remember the movie Class Act, a couple guys that I knew that was older than me, they drove me to a shrimp place on the east side on Gratiot called O'Quinn's. And they had switches on their cars and we would hit switches. So I really wanted to be a heart surgeon initially. And I would read, Ben Carson books, Gifted Hands and things of that nature. And then I kind of lost my fire for sports and that. And the transition really was easy because it was always right there,
Right. So at this point, like, I guess you enter that world or whatever, and it leads you into getting shot when you turn 18, right? So yeah. What's happening like at that time? Like, what even gets you in that situation?
I rather not really expound on that,
for sure.
Too much. But I would say that, everything that I've been through, it helped build character in me, and it's part of why I'm here today and why I have another mission right now, because I believe the cure is in the poison. Who better to tell it than somebody that really lived it and been through it? Right. And that's me. I personify that.
So after that incident, where does your life take you? How do you handle your life after that?
So after that incident, later on, shortly after that, subsequently, I went to the penitentiary for a gun. I got 3.5 to 5 years for the gun. I served 2 years. I became my own lawyer.
Wow.
And I got myself out on a Brady violation with the police withheld exculpatory evidence. So I got out on an appeal bond after 2 years. And when I came home after doing those 2 years, the lady that raised me died in my arms of cancer. And I really just, wanted to be something bigger and than just the average street guy.
Yeah.
So I began to, hone in on other skills, things that can perpetuate me and take me to higher heights in a corporate world. So I started reading books. I read a book called The 12 Universal Laws of Success by Herbert Harris. And that really was my breaking point to start a new lifestyle. Although I have had hiccups after, I've really been strong and really transitioning and making a better life for myself and my family.
When you said that you became your own lawyer and you got yourself out of prison, what act was violated? You said the Brady Act was violated on your behalf, and then talk about how it was a violation and how you figured out how to get that to court and get appealed.
Yeah, see, that's the game. In every case, it's loopholes and it's things, that are done wrong. So my whole thing was to exploit that the officers was lying. So they said that I, brandished a weapon and threw it, which I didn't. And the onboard cameras would have showed that. So I retrieved the activity logs and I showed that the camera was working earlier that day. But all of a sudden, the footage when it came to me was missing.
Yeah.
So I pushed on that. I had a judge by the name of Callahan back then. He's retired. He said he wanted to give over some millions of years before he retired. And everybody thought that it wasn't going to work, but, you miss 100% of the times you don't try. So I put the motion in for appeal bond, and it was granted.
Did you get to sue the department after that or anything?
Yeah, but, I wasn't, I was just so happy to get out at the time. I'm getting out of jail. I'm going in at 22, getting out at roughly 25.
Man.
So it just wasn't my thing to try to shoot.
So you said this gave you a whole new perception on life again, and so you started to get yourself back on track. What did you do after that?
Well, I started a clothing line in 2009 called Fast Lane Forever Clothing, and I just began to really take everything more serious with my life. You know what I mean? It was a point of time where I didn't.
One second.
I didn't.
Is that your person?
That's probably my little brothers.
Okay, cool. We can let him in. You want to let him in real quick before we continue?
Ready.
All right, for sure. So we're talking about you breaking into entrepreneurship. You start a clothing line. Continue from that point.
Yeah, so I started a clothing line back then. This was back in the primitive days before a lot of people was, getting LLCs and things like that. And I just always had it in my heart, to do something greater. And legacy was very important to me. I just wanted to do something different and be bigger than just being an average criminal. And I know that energy transforms and transmutes, and energy never leaves. So I just want to put something on this earth, energy-wise, that'll always be here forever. That's timeless.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
How were you guys marketing it at that time, and how much attention was the clothing line getting at the time?
Well, I was just getting a horse out the stable with that,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just amongst my people. You know what I mean? I look at life like this. It breaks down to three things: ecology, humans in relations to other people; psychology, your state of mind; and spirituality, which is your roadmap. So it was just something that I was just doing amongst, my people in the community, and before I had another hiccup. So I had so many hiccups, but
Yeah, one thing we talked about beforehand was you had to spend the majority of your life away again, unfortunately. Talk about how you got to that point.
Yeah, so when I got out for the gun, I was out for 3 years for the gun on appeal bond. And during that time, I had a self-defense shooting in Benihana. And when, I shot the guy in self-defense in Benihana, it was crazy. I had U.S. Marshals chasing me everywhere. And it just was something crazy. But every flaw that I went through, patience put me in proper form. So that's when I birthed new ideas. And like when you go through things in life, you have to think, what do I have to do to get through the other side of this experience? And in doing so, it changes your perspective. And your perspective is what really forms your reality. Yes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you have a very spiritual outlook on life. Obviously, like you said, it comes down to, when it comes to existential, it's psychological, right? People, how they act. But then when it comes to your inner intention, it's your spiritual side, right?
Right.
So you have an understanding of all these magnificent parts of life, not just not just the one part of it. So how does that?
Thank you for seeing that in me, man.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm on the same road as you are.
100.
So the self-defense, they obviously didn't see it that way because they unfortunately got locked up for it. But in your eyes to this day, are you still standing on the fact that it was self-defense?
Oh yeah, it was definitely self-defense. I had a great lawyer that I grew up with this lawyer, Daniel Blank,
mm-hmm.
and Blank, he came to me, and since I had so much of a jacket and a criminal history, they wasn't trying to see it that way. And, it was certain things that was missing that would have pulled that out. But, I mean, we prevailed in my eyes. I was able to sleep good at night, you know what I mean, with the outcome, based upon all of the charges that I had initially and how it came out, because I was going to do 5 years for the gun regardless, just a felon with a gun. So I looked at it like a blessing, you know what I mean?
What'd they give you for the self-defense?
So altogether, I got 7 years
Okay.
for the self-defense crime.
Okay. And so when you're away, what are you learning? Obviously, you already been through the system before, but how are you going through this next set of years?
So the next set of years is when, I start using the upper echelon mechanisms of my brain. Mm-hmm. This is when I started to hone in on reading different magazines and reading different things that will really make my legacy stand apart from the next guy that was just in the streets.
Yeah.
And this is when I, came up with this great thing, this $1 billion thing here, Ceenverde.
Mm.
And this is when I really, really got to feeling myself.
For sure. And so you were developing...
Because I had purpose.
The idea came while you were in prison for the tequila.
Exactly. It came during the pandemic. It came during a time where it was an influx of money. And if you ever study, the history of the USA, most of the people who flourish with great wealth, they get it through the Great Depression or times when it's bad for everybody else.
Yeah.
So I was able to, like a hot knife through butter, like thinking wise, cut my mind through all of the madness, the racist police in the joint, all of the things that was going on that was chaotic. I was able to birth a great idea and stick to it perseverance wise, and I'm here on the couch with you today, man.
Yeah.
And I appreciate just breathing air, just being here. You know what I mean?
For sure, man. Oh, yeah, I was thinking about that too earlier, like during the pandemic, how many people turned up from that. And, like it was like an opportunity, but unfortunately some people, they didn't really figure out how to make it an everlasting opportunity. Everybody kind of a lot of people blew their money. A lot of people didn't know how to manage it, you know what I'm saying? It's hard to manage that, you know what I'm saying? But that's why you create something during that time. Instead of just blow the money, you got to create something that can last, right?
Yeah, my whole thing was, I would call to the world, and things was moving so fast and rapid, and I wanted to build a brand. I wanted something that I can reach the masses in the world with, and something that would be timeless,
Yeah. You got to spend time with Marvin Cotton Jr. He was on the podcast. He was wrongfully convicted of a crime he didn't commit. I think he spent almost 20 years in prison, and then he was able to prove his innocence. Talk about your experience with Marvin real quick.
Oh, Marvin Cotton, he was my neighbor at Adrian. Solid guy, very disciplined, sharp thinker. I speak volumes about him. He's a great guy.
How did you conduct yourself throughout that time? Did you just lay low, or like how did you get through the time?
It depends. Everything is about balance. I mean, when I needed to be in full effect, I was in full effect. When I needed to lay back, I laid back, and I took all the bumps and bruises that came along with the bit. It was a roller coaster, but I'm here today. You know what I mean? Anything that don't kill you make you stronger.
For sure. You also mentioned to me something about like a helicopter evacuation. What was that story all about?
Oh yeah. As far as the helicopter, so I grew up in the era like in the 90s. In 95, I went to the Million Man March. In 96, I was at the Olympic Games. In 97, I was listening to a lot of Pac, you know what I mean? And Pac had a song called Picture Me Rolling. Mm-hmm. So really, I wanted it to be strong. Like, I wanted to be like the opening move of a chess match. And I wanted to make a mockery of everybody, who tried to strip me of my individuality. And it was just like saying like, I would never conform. I'm always going to be an individual. I'm always going to be D Greene. And it was bigger than life. I got my guys, my family was there. My little brother Incognito Tito, Jam, his guys, Diddy Rex, you know what I mean? My guy who was my partner, Detroit King Tate was there, Chuck 1000. And everybody who rooted for me along the way, and who didn't give up on me when it was so easy to, because the situation was so bleak and dark. You lose a lot of people along the way.
Yeah. Since you've been back, what has been the strategy for you to market yourself, market the brand, and put out all the plans that you've had in store?
Oh yeah, so I've been very deliberate about everything. I mean, a lot of the groundwork was laid while I was in there. Actually, I used people as proxies to hold it down while I was in there, and I was on a 3-way phone calls in London and in Mexico. So we get this great tequila imported in from Guadalajara, Jalisco. So a lot of the times I was on the phone with my source. My source does diplomacy over 3,500 tequilas in Mexico, and my other partner works for NASA. Very intelligente people. So I spend a lot of time, networking and talking, and conversation rules the nation. So
yeah,
getting it done.
Yeah, it's a hard science to get tequilas done right. I think like Dwayne the Rock Johnson came out with one recently, didn't he?
Yeah, it's a lot of people joining the market because it's $1 billion industry.
Yeah,
I know you smell that great agave.
it's
so
great, bro. Trust me. When I used to drink, I knew tequila just off the smell of it alone. That I already know what that would taste like if I had it right now.
Yeah, it takes 10.5 pounds of agave to make this one wonderful, amazing fifth, 7.5 liters.
God damn. What's the average cost on the bottle?
I don't want to get into that.
All right.
But the upside is tremendous.
Okay, bad.
Yeah.
For sure. Now talk about the response that you have been getting from it. Have you been able to get it to like local celebrities or anybody like that? Have you been able to market it like that?
We got a lot of people. You know, I want to keep it under wraps right now because we still really haven't introduced. Really, this is one of the introductions to the world right here. We've been doing a lot of private tastings and the response has been wonderful. The law of attraction is working for us. People love the taste. I'm sure you love the smell. So
no,
you know, your senses is all connected. It's a great, wonderful thing.
So you've seen the generations of the music scene, the entertainment scene, and also what's been happening in Detroit for a while now. Talk about what you've been perceiving from it as far as Detroit as a whole, as far as the culture and even the music itself.
Well, Detroit is on an upward trajectory, and that's what we want to do with the tequila and the documentary and everything that we're doing. We want to tie everything to the culture, which is fashion, film, and music. And Detroit has always been big on that. The world is just not catching on. You know, we did hair shows back in the day. Detroit is known for, you know, gator boots and, you know, Zanetti suits, you know, and dressing, in fashion, film, music. So I like what's going on.
Talk about that documentary that you do have coming out, man.
Oh, the documentary is bigger than life. It's about my life, you know what I mean? All of the different hardships. It's about turning tragedy into triumph. I'm so deep into it, I got it tatted in my head. So turning tragedy into triumph and just living on a broad spectrum to be able to be on 6 Mile and Gratiot 1 minute and then the next minute zap and fly to friendly skies and be in Malibu. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's just about, you know, showing diversity as far as being able to grow, to show growth and maturity.
Yeah.
And to be able to turn everything that's meant to go against you. It's about, you know, showing that you can surmount these obstacles with the right mental state.
Yeah.
Because your brain has 1 trillion cells, 150 billion, which are neurons. The neurons are transmitters which tell you what to do. So whatever you think about most of the time, that's what you become. So it's about just feeding your brain the right things and living out your dreams, man.
Yeah, the ability to take complete control of your life, right? Mentally, physically, energy-wise, right? Consciousness, right? At the end of the day. Most people like think that's a joke, like just, what the fuck is all that shit? But it's like, if you want to have mastery over your life, you have to take control of your consciousness, right? And your actions.
Bingo.
You know what I mean? How do you think you can get that message out to people more without them feeling like, oh, fuck that? You know what I'm saying? This new generation's all about kind of like just do what's willy-nilly, what's happening out there type shit.
I mean, it's like a bucket. If I put a bucket on this ground and drops of water drip in a bucket, pretty soon that water will be full. That bucket will be full with small drops at a time. So, I mean, I'm only one man. I mean, all I can do is lead by example. Like I said earlier, the cure is in the poison. So who better to say it than me? That's why you got to go check out the documentary.
Yeah. Because
it really is inspirational to people that's going through all different things. It's a template for struggle, and struggle is ordained. So you see my struggles, you know what I mean? I'm transparent with them, and you see how, you know, I surmount them, and you able to gain some inspiration from that and implement it in your life. You know what I'm saying?
What's the name of the documentary and what's the release date for it?
It's called No Brake Lights, because, you know, I'm showing no brake lights. It's all gas from here on out. My life was slow for over 2 decades because I'm in and out of prison. You know what I mean? But now it's all gas. So it's no brake lights. You know what I mean? All of the tragedy that I went through it's in there, and it's continuous things that's going on in my life up to date. It's just me chronicling all of these things and bringing it to the people so that they're able to gain some inspiration from it, hopefully.
Yeah. One part of that sucks, obviously, is the police have control over changing evidence, right? Or making an outcome come different in court than what the truth is, right? That's kind of what happened in Marvin Khan's case as well, where it's like police are able to manipulate evidence to make you look guilty, right? And so you can spend years and years in prison for something you didn't do. And it still happens to this day.
Oh, it happens all the time. It happens in courtrooms all over the world every morning or whatever. So it's just about, having great mouthpieces and instruments to really get out what you want to get out. I want to show some gratitude towards my lawyer, Lillian Diallo, and I feel like my grandmothers that passed, they're angels, and they're angels over me and messengers, and they kind of keep a force field around me to where it's impenetrable, and I'm able to, you know what I mean, mob through life and make it, and not only survive but thrive in these type of situations,
Yeah. When you're talking about these vacations and trips that you're taking, man, what's it all about? What's the journeys like for you? You're talking about Malibu and crossing the country and stuff like that.
Oh, it's great because, it's just, I get a lot of gratitude just from being here, man. Like when you was just faced with immeasurable odds and your life is stripped down into eating ramen noodles and, child hall is going on around you and you got to go get clothes that they barely want to give you. You know what I mean? So you got to go pick up secure packs and communicate with your family through JPay, and you know what I mean? It's a lot. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot to deal with.
Talk about
it's not for the faint-hearted.
You got tequila right now. How can people get a bottle of this?
Right now it's exclusive.
Oh shit. Okay.
It's very exclusive, but we'll be coming in production very soon.
Okay.
So right now we just been doing tastings and building traction around it, and we're gonna have an 8-city tour. It's bigger than life. Shout out to my man Detroit King Tape. We working around the clock on this. We're gonna be taking a trip to Mexico next month to finalize everything with the deals we've been working on, and we'll be to the world, man. And it's great. You see,
for sure.
Yeah.
Talk about is there anything you do want to mention or tell the audience before we sign out?
It's just about never giving up. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm gonna give a short story. So it was a guy. He was in a boat, and the boat capsized at sea. So he was on an island by himself. So it was a rough terrain. It was bad weather. So he was malnourished because he wasn't eating a lot of food. So he went to he started a fire. He made a hut for refuge. Then he went to the water to catch some fish. And when he came back to his hut, the hut was on fire from the fire he started. And the Coast Guard came and they said they never would have saw him if it wasn't for the fire from the hut. So just when you think it can't get no worse, that's when it's about to get better. Keep pushing, shoom shoom, fast lane. Bingo. You prevail,
Yeah, man. I appreciate this talk with you, man. I appreciate you bringing out the tequila. It's exclusive, so this shot right here is probably worth like a few $100s right now.
Salud.
You feel me?
Yeah.
So I'll, what I'm saying, man. I'm gonna auction this shot off because I quit
bingo.
drinking
And
recently.
this bottle is gonna be like the Holy Grail, man.
You feel me? So we'll be rich men soon. Appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. Look forward to seeing the documentary, and when that premieres, we'll pull up to check it out, man. We're at Parallel Sound Studio, High Low Visuals, Shootings Productions. We're out. Peace.
Appreciate this.